So this is part 2 of the review of the Off-Grid Expedition 3.0 trailer that I purchased in June 2024 and now focuses on the features of the trailer and considerations related to that if you're deciding on a build. Maybe some of the comments could be helpful for you. This is the specification sheet. The dry weight of current units is 1,900 pounds or 861 kilograms. That is without any accessories. It will be 2,500 to 3,500 pounds when loaded. The tongue weight is given as 290 pounds, but I think they've shifted the wheels forward a bit over time to reduce the tongue weight, so the current tongue weight is 275 pounds or 124 kilograms. So unladen without any accessories, it is already more than half the 500 pound weight rating of my 4Runner hitch. Also, there's very little room if you have a 4-door Jeep Wrangler with a 3,500 pound towing capacity, which will give a hitch capacity of around 350 pounds. The best 2024 Wrangler towing trims can tow 5,000 pounds, but most will be 3,500 pounds, and all 2-door Wranglers only 2,000 pounds, which means you cannot tow this trailer with it. The maximum gross vehicle weight of the trailer is 3,500 pounds or 1,588 kilograms. The height from the ground to the top of the 270-degree awning on my unit is 239 centimeters or 94 inches. That is with the Evolution suspension. It just does not fit in my garage door due to the height, so I have to screw the awning off to fit it in the garage. The length of my unit is 167 inches, and that will vary a little bit depending on the length and setup of the towing coupler you select. So mine is just short of 14 feet or 425 centimeters. The width is 89 inches, so it fits in a standard garage that's about 8 foot wide or 226 centimeters. It is slightly wider than my 4Runner. I do not use mirror extensions, but I cannot see directly behind me if there is a vehicle. This is the view from the side mirrors. The shower box on the left is wider and sticks out further than the kitchen box on the right. But the shower box is shorter, so there's a bigger gap between the fender and the box to see what is behind you. The kitchen box sticks out less on the right side, but it is higher without a gap between the fender and the bottom of the box to see through. I have to make small turns to see if a car is directly behind me. Off-grid trailers now have a new option for a rear view camera. I don't know where it displays to and if you can use it while driving on the highway. I have a magnetic camera from Amazon that wirelessly connects to my phone as the display, and it can charge via a USB plug or its own solar panel. But I do not drive with it in place. I just use it when I'm on my own and have to back the trailer into a small space and need to see if the back end is hitting anything. Note the interior headroom from the floor to the roof is 46.5 inches or 118 centimeters, so you can sit up straight in it but obviously not stand. It is 40.5 inches or 100 centimeters with a thick mattress in it. The interior length is 80 inches or 203 centimeters, that's 6.6 feet, so it's long enough for most people to lie straight in. The interior width is 56.5 inches or 143.5 centimeters, which is just about a queen bed. The mattress fills the entire floor space, so there's no place to shift it if the doors leak water. There's a 31 gallon or 117 liter freshwater tank. A full water tank takes 40 pounds or 18 kilograms off the tongue weight. You can see the water level from inside the cabin. The water pump can be accessed via a panel in the rear hatch of the trailer, and it's a very straightforward process to winterize it. The water tank runs the whole width of the trailer. There is very generous interior cabinet space that is more than enough for clothes for 2 people for all seasons for 2 weeks. I stored tarps, hammocks, a handheld vacuum cleaner, and even spare food there as well, with room to spare. What tow vehicle you have is an important consideration. I have a stock 2020 4Runner TRD Pro without modifications, so it has a towing capacity of 5,000 pounds and a hitch weight limit of 500 pounds. The hitch is bolted to the rear transverse beam of the chassis without any connection to the longitudinal beams of the chassis, as is the case with some trucks. It's not a great towing vehicle, and I certainly did not enjoy long-distance towing on highways with traffic, as I clearly slowed everyone behind me down. As is generally recommended, I towed in S4, so you shift the automatic transmission to the S mode or the manual mode where you can gear up and down at will. S4 limits the upper gear to 4th, and that just puts the engine at a reasonable point on the RPM versus power curve. At 80 to 100 kilometers per hour, I was at 2,100 to 2,500 RPM. So at 60 miles per hour, it's around 2,500 RPM, and it gave me a fuel consumption of 16 liters per 100 kilometer. Engine power is poor and speed dies off quickly on hills, requiring you to gear down to 3rd and even 2nd on steep hills. Even big trucks and small SUVs towing RVs would pass me. I felt at times I would gladly sacrifice some of the legendary reliability of the 4-liter engine for more performance. Note the two-door Wranglers only have a towing capacity of 2,000 pounds, so strictly speaking you cannot tow this trailer with it. Standard Wranglers have a towing capacity of 3,500 pounds, which puts you close to the potential gross vehicle weight of the trailer. That then also puts you close to the tongue weight limit of 350 pounds. Most people recommend not to tow more than 75% of your vehicle's towing capacity. I think the standard Wranglers are more nippy than the 4Runner, despite its bigger 4-liter 6-cylinder engine, but it is older and underpowered. But the lower towing limit on the Wranglers is possibly more related to suspension considerations than engine power. The highest towing trim Wranglers can go to 5,000 pounds. The Broncos are also 3,500 pounds, except for the Raptor, which can tow 4,500 pounds. The new Toyota Land Cruisers can tow up to 6,000 pounds, but I don't know how the rear suspension compares with a 4Runner in terms of squat. I've never used the front top storage platform because I'm already struggling to tow the weight of the trailer. Because it is not designed for towing, the 4Runner does not have any gauges for engine coolant and transmission temperatures. So I purchased a Scan Gauge 3 to plug into my vehicle's diagnostics port. That's the OBD2 port under the steering wheel. It works well on all vehicles after 1996. So I could monitor coolant and transmission temperatures. Without the trailer, the 4Runner ran at transmission temperatures in the 60 degrees Celsius. With the trailer, they were in the 70 degrees Celsius and often went over 100 Celsius on steep hills and up to a maximum that I saw of 122 degrees Celsius when on longer hills, and it was definitely worse at lower speeds on gravel roads. So I really don't know how you do serious off-roading in full low with little airflow over the cooling radiators on steep technical climbs with a trailer without frequently running transmission fluids above 104 degrees Celsius unless you get a secondary transmission cooler. From what I read, transmission fluid tends to degrade above 104 degrees Celsius. That's 220 Fahrenheit, and you should change your transmission fluid then. You could do damage to the transmission above 115 degrees Celsius. That's 240 degrees Fahrenheit. I actually asked a transmission service agent to install a secondary transmission cooler on my vehicle, but they seem to feel it's not needed for a 3,000-pound trailer. I read on 4Runner forums that a secondary cooler also voids the Toyota warranty. It may seem strange that something protecting your transmission voids the warranty, but if you are needing a secondary cooler, I suppose you're putting more forces through your transmission than what they designed it for, and Toyota's certainly not going to warranty that. I also had to beg Toyota to change my transmission fluid after the summer of towing, as they suggest in the manual, and they seem to feel it was unnecessary. So I can't help but feel I'm shortening the life of my transmission. The manual clearly says the vehicle is designed for occupants and their luggage, and that towing will shorten the lifespan of components. That potential cost needs to be considered together with the cost of trailer maintenance and storage when considering the cost of trailer ownership. If you have a truck, you are probably set for this trailer. A truck would be an ideal tow vehicle, but it is not ideal for me because I need the heated cabin space. The luggage I have, like telescopes, cameras and electronics, would freeze in the winter in the non-heated truck bed, and water that gets in sometimes makes it hard to open or close a cover when it freezes. When you decide to get a trailer, you can customize your build. Off-Grid Trailers has a really nice website. It shows you on a rotatable 3D image what your trailer will look like as you add accessories and what the price will be as you add options. I'll go through the options as it is on their website. You can select from a wide selection of wraps, or you have the option of designing a custom wrap with them according to your taste. You can match the appearance of the trailer to your car if you want. I just chose one of the stock wraps. The trailer comes with 4 fixed roof crossbars. There are some extra bolt sites that give you a limited option to shift the bars a short distance if you need to, but I chose to upgrade to the 6 crossbars to ensure versatility when mounting kayaks, tents or bikes. The roof can take a load of 1,000 pounds. Note again the stainless steel bolts attaching the aluminum bars and side plates. The crossbars are welded on 4 sides, but one of my crossbars was not welded on the top surface. It looks like they just forgot to weld it. That's a bit disappointing for their quality control. I don't know anything about welding, so I don't know if it matters at all. I hope that as Off-Grid Trailers grows, they don't compromise quality for production speed. On my unit, the door water leaks, this missed weld, and the inconsistent application of siloprene to isolate the aluminum bottom panel from the steel chassis is concerning to me with regards to their quality control. You can stand on the running boards and fenders, so I chose to upgrade to the checker plate anti-skid fenders versus the smooth fenders, since I'll be having to climb on it often to remove the awning or mount a kayak. Note that stones accumulate in the space between the fenders and the trailer body, and vibrations grind away. So I ended up sealing it. I upgraded from a stock 2-inch ball hitch to the 360-degree articulating max coupler hitch. I don't see why you would have a ball mount if you need the off-road trailer. If you don't need it, you can get a lighter teardrop trailer that is far cheaper. Any bad road with deep ditches and changing cameras will most likely challenge the range of a ball hitch. The max coupler has virtually unlimited movement on 3 axes, giving totally unrestricted movement without binding or locking. If you have multiple trailers, you may have to switch out hitches since it's not a standard connection, but it does make it harder to steal. It works well with no slop between the tow car and the trailer, and it is totally silent. Sometimes it can be a little bit finicky to line up the clevis pinhole just because of the narrow tolerance, and sometimes I need to move the car for it to seat correctly. Note that it takes a 5/8 inch clevis pin. I was very diligent greasing both sides via the 2 Zerk fittings to ensure smooth movement and prevent water ingress and corrosion. Note you need a hitch mount with a 1-inch hole to install the vehicle side of the max coupler. The top surface of the hitch must be 25 inches from the ground for the trailer with the Evolution suspension. I found it quite hard to find since my stock 4Runner then needed a 5 1/4 inch rise hitch. If you use an adjustable hitch mount, it put the 1-inch hole further back from the rear axle than the 4Runner manual recommends, which would put more leverage on the hitch and lower the maximum tongue weight, not to mention affecting the stability of the car. I could only find a 5-inch rise hitch mount, so the trailer is slightly tongue down together with the rear squat of the car. The 4Runner does squat. I ordered in-coil airbags for the rear suspension to counteract the squat. After they arrived, the local shop very honestly advised me against it. To their credit, my suspension never bottomed out on the bump stop, and airbags would change the ride quality, necessarily making it very firm with a harsher ride. There was also the possibility that if a connection failed to the airbag, then there could be a sudden depressurization that may not be symmetric, and I didn't like the idea of having even a few seconds of instability if the one side suspension suddenly changes versus the other side. The bump stop would have to be cut out, which means I was committed to always having an airbag. So I ended up never installing it. Note these comments are for the 2020 4Runner TRD Pro that has Fox shocks without the kinetic dynamic suspension system. I don't know how it compares with models with a KDS, or how the new 4Runner suspensions compare, or how the Wranglers or Land Cruisers will fare in that regard. Note that the trailer has electronic brakes to the trailer wheels, so your 7-pin plug has a pin supplying power to the brakes of the trailer, and the backup battery for the disconnect cable activated braking. So I had to install a trailer brake controller in my car, and you'll need to if you don't have a towing package with one already installed. My dealership installed the Tekonsha Primus IQ, which I am happy with. You can set the sensitivity. It can be manually activated with a proportional button that the further you push it in, the harder the trailer brakes are activated, just for in case of trailer sway. It has a button to select modes between different degrees of brake assist. It has an inertial sensor to deliver proportional braking depending on how hard you are decelerating. It works well and takes the strain and wear off your car brakes so that they don't overheat with the extra load on long steep downhills, but it does add maintenance work for keeping the trailer brakes correctly set as they wear. The car and the trailer brake very proportionally if you set the gain on the brake controller well, so that you don't feel your braking distance is significantly prolonged. Red Arc is another highly rated brake controller when I was reading about it. My brake controller was installed near my left knee, but apparently the best position is actually somewhere in the center console, where your passenger can also reach it to activate it in the event of trailer sway when you are maybe hanging on to the wheel. The Expedition 3.0 towed very well. It is very stable with no sway, but my car weighs 4,750 pounds empty, so it's much heavier than the trailer, and I would not expect trailer sway to be a big risk. I think the design of the trailer is very good in that most of the weight is over the wheels, other than the fridge and the electronics in the front box. With regards to the towing and reversing experience, it is very sensitive with its short tow hitch and its short length. I just had to take it slowly, but the positive thing is it is very maneuverable. You just have to watch out not to jackknife it. I simply used the rule of putting my hand on the bottom of the wheel and moving it to the side that I want the trailer to go. Note that on the 4Runner I needed a 2-foot extension for the 7-pin plug because the car plug is located so far under the car from the hitch. I just cable tied it to the hitch. I initially opted for the stock Timbren axle-less suspension since I don't off-road, but when the sales rep heard I drive long distances on gravel roads, he recommended the upgraded FabTech Evolution suspension, and I'm very glad that he did. It adds 5,445 Canadian dollars to the price, but it is one costly part that I am definitely not sorry about. It performed very well. The trailer does not bounce around. It's very stable, and the suspension really absorbs corrugations wonderfully. And I think it reduces the wear effects of high and low frequency vibrations in the trailer. It gives 25 inches of ground clearance, which is more than most tow vehicles will have. With a higher ground clearance, you have to opt for an upgraded ARC XO tongue jack as well, because it has higher extension and a stronger build with double wheels. I find the jack works well. There is a mark on the lower extending part of it indicating a height above which you should not be moving the trailer. The whole jack assembly would flex out under weight, so I tried to always put blocks under the wheel so that it was always extended as little as possible to reduce the lateral forces, flex and wear. The mechanism to pull it up and fold it up works well. Note that you should lock the jack down as far as possible before winding out the extendable inner part to reduce the force on the inner segment. There is a pin that holds the wheel upwards to ensure good ground clearance. Note that the handle is magnetic and removable, so it can be lost, which will create a problem. I opted for the spare tire carrier with spare tire because you have to have one if you are overlanding away from help. Fortunately, the trailer uses the same 31-inch tires as my car, so I could theoretically do without the spare on my car or the trailer. The trailer tires are BF Goodrich KO2 all-terrain tires, 265/70/17. Note it does require a specific socket adapter for the wheel nuts that is supplied in the bag with the manuals, so don't lose it. I'm not sure if the nuts on my car wheel fits the rim of the trailer's spare tire though. I opted for the rear stabilizing jacks. There is no risk of the trailer tipping over backwards when it is on level ground, as any added weight when you climb in is in front of the wheels. I did use them when camping on sloped grounds because it felt more secure and less risk of the wheels running over the chocks. Note that the trailer has no handbrakes, so the wheels always have to be chocked. I would normally disconnect it from my car just to reduce the constant weight and sag on my rear coils. The other reason I got them was that I have no jack that can elevate a 25-inch ground clearance trailer if I had to change a wheel. My car jack only goes to 19 inches fully extended. Because I'm already near my hitch weight limit, I don't want to carry extra weight like a high-rise jack. Although the trailer manual states that they should not be used to raise the trailer, the staff at Off-Grid Trailers said it was for the letter of the rule because the jacks are at or above 75% of their travel when lifting the trailer, but that they can certainly be used in an emergency to lift the trailer to change a wheel. The jacks take a number 19 socket. I do rotate the tires and include the spare in the rotation schedule, which I'm doing every 5,000 kilometers. I tried once to jack both wheels up on the easy jacks while the trailer was connected to the car, thinking it reduced the force per jack, but the jacks do not have lateral stability and the trailer swayed alarmingly. I was afraid they would buckle laterally where they are bolted onto the chassis. So now I keep one wheel of the trailer on the ground to prevent lateral movement while changing the other wheel. I opted for the rear hitch receiver, which I think is now standard on the Expedition 3.0. I did have difficulty finding an extension that is required to be able to fit a bike rack on. It needs at least a 2-foot extension, and the one I have still does not give enough space for a bike on the front position of the bike rack. I use my extension to tie the rear kayak rope to for the kayak on the roof. My bikes I transport inside the 4Runner with the rear seats folded down. I did not opt for the additional lighting package, which puts light in the front storage box, the side boxes, and interior dimmer switches. It may be good for resale value, but for me in summer it does not get dark until nearly midnight, and then it gets light again like 4 o'clock in the morning, so I rarely found the use for light. I don't really lie in bed reading at night, so dimmer lights were not useful to me, but maybe for resale value I would now think it would be a good thing to consider. It comes with an 11-pound propane tank. I used it for 2 weeks of cooking, showering, the occasional use of the furnace at night, and after 2 weeks when I went to Costco's gas bar to have it refilled, they would not even charge me because there was so little needed to refill. So it's really efficient on gas usage. In metric terms, the full gas cylinder weighs 11 kilograms, the empty weight, tare weight, is 6 kilograms, so it takes 5 kilograms of propane when full. I chose the 69-liter Truma fridge upgrade. You don't have to have a fridge. I have never camped before with a fridge, but it was a great improvement in luxury for my camping experience to have it. You can opt for the smaller Dometic fridge that's a single zone, so it must be either a fridge or a freezer. The Truma is a dual compartment fridge and freezer, so I could actually have ice cream on camping trips, which was nice. You can remove the internal walls separating the fridge and freezer and make the whole thing a fridge or the whole thing a freezer. It works well. It uses around 4 amps at the most when on, so it's the most power hungry item. It could basically deplete the battery in just over 3 days if it is hot outside and you set it very cold. I set the fridge to 1 degree Celsius and the freezer to either -10 or -15 Celsius, and only put it on 2 or 3 times per day just to get it to temperature, and then I would put it off again. I don't think you can have it on when the storage box is closed, even though the storage box is not airtight. I don't think it's ideal not to have good air circulation around it. If I leave the storage box door open, it's not ideal in bear country, and obviously I don't have the door open when driving. I used frozen water bottles at the start of the journey in the fridge and freezer, and they remained frozen after 2 weeks if I just 2 or 3 times a day brought it to temperature. It would be nice if there was a version of the fridge that used electricity or gas. The slide of the fridge is very durable and has a nice mechanism to hold the handle up to avoid it coming loose on rough roads when you slid it and locked it in. There's a small vibration I could feel through the floor of the trailer when it was on at night, and that bothered me a bit, but it's not a big deal and it did not bother other people in the trailer. There is an option for a roof-mounted box with a table under your roof rails. That would depend on your camping style and needs. I did not go for it because I was trying to limit the gross vehicle weight where possible, and in campsites there usually are tables, and when I don't have a table for my minimalist cooking needs, the fender is more than enough space. I also did not opt for the Bluetooth sound system, paper towel holders, or spice rack and windscreen for the stove. The windscreen is something I would now consider because the stove is sensitive to wind. I opted for the 6-inch convertible bed that can convert to a couch, which sounds useful, but I did not find that to be the case. It's expensive. It's another nearly 1,000 Canadian dollars extra, so I covered it with a protective fitted cover and a fitted sheet, which then makes that it's not convertible anymore. Note the shelf options are in the area where your head is when sitting on the mattress in the cabin, so I ended up not going for the shelf options. I found that the cabinets were more than enough space. I did install my own small wall shelf on either side of the trailer wall where I could put my car keys, cell phone and charging cords. I did not go for a TV. The door privacy shades work well, but note that the roof fan cover is transparent and allows lots of light in. If you need darkness, you will need to cover that opening. I did not opt for the tablet holder on the cabinet doors. I did think the air conditioner rough-in may be important for the summer, but it does cost another 1,265 Canadian dollars. I have not yet purchased the Zero Breeze Mark II that fits into that space because I have not felt the need for it yet. The odd afternoon when I took a nap during the day, just putting the fan on was fine, but I'm up north where it maybe does not get as hot as further south. Note that the Zero Breeze Mark II has now been updated to the next generation Mark III unit, which no longer fits into that space. I chose the Maxxfan Deluxe upgrade, which has a thermostat that will switch the fan on and off when the set temperature is reached, and has a cover that can theoretically be left open in the rain and when driving. It does allow splashes in when raining hard and will allow dust in when driving on gravel roads. If you close it, there is a rubber seal which effectively does keep out dust and water. The fan is quiet and not intrusive at all at 10 to 20% setting, but it starts getting audible above that. It has a remote but can also be operated directly from the buttons on the unit. The fan draws about 1 amp or less at the 20% setting. Condensation is not a problem if the windows and the fan cover are open, even if the fan's not on. The fan seems best in the extract or out setting. In the cold, if the window is open, air does directly blow on your head, so I either closed it or just cracked it open a sliver with a rubber stopper. Then it is useful to use the furnace to heat up the cabin to around 21 to 25 degrees Celsius, so that warms up the inside walls and prevents condensation. The remaining features will be reviewed in part 3.